You ask an AI to give you a breakdown of your industry. The report comes back in 30 seconds. It has sections, it has charts, it has confident sentences that sound like they were written by someone who's been in the room. You read it twice. You feel like you understand your industry now. Then someone asks you a follow-up question, not a trick. Just, what evidence is this based on? And you realize you have nothing. This is not a story about bad AI. It's a story about the gap between the feeling of understanding and the real thing. And AA, it turns out, is very good at producing one without the other. So the real question is not whether the answer sounds intelligent. The question is whether you can verify it, explain it, and own the reasoning yourself. In this video, we'll break down why Fluent AI answers create the illusion of expertise, and how to test whether you actually understand what you accepted. First, let's look at why Fluent text feels true. To understand what is happening, you need to unpack two separate cognitive effects that work together. The first is the fluency effect. Psychologists have known for decades that we use ease of processing as a cue for truth. If something reads smoothly, we assume it is accurate. If something is hard to read, we assume it requires more scrutiny. This is not irrational. In most of human history, fluent nonsense was rare. Elaborate lies take effort. Simple truths tend to be clean. So our brains made a shortcut. Fluency equals reliability. The problem is that A is fluent by default. It was trained to produce text that reads well, not text that is correct. These are different goals, and the overlap is coincidental. When an AI generates a confident, well-structured answer, your brain reads the fluency as evidence of quality. You are not evaluating the content, you are responding to the packaging. The second effect is the illusion of explanatory depth. Studied by cognitive scientists Leonid Rosenblatt and Frank Heel, their finding is simple and unsettling. People routinely believe they understand how things work until they are asked to explain them in detail. Ask someone to describe how a bicycle stays upright and they will nod confidently. Ask them to draw the mechanism component by component, and most people's drawings are wrong. This happens because understanding feels linear. You can explain one layer of a system, and that makes the next layer feel reachable, and the next, until you believe the whole thing is in reach. But each layer you move down reveals new complexity. The feeling of access is not the same as the thing itself. Now, put the two effects together. The fluency effect gives you a smooth, authoritative text. The illusion of explanatory depth makes you feel that the text is within your intellectual reach, that you could explain it if someone asked. These feelings reinforce each other. The smoother the output, the more you feel you understand it. The more you feel you understand it, the less you question the content. What you are left with is a person who has absorbed a lot of polished text and experienced the sensation of learning without any of the underlying structure. Next, here's why. Fluency starts to feel like your own fluency. There is a third layer that AI makes uniquely dangerous. When you read a well-written analysis, you do not just absorb the claims. You absorb the language, the vocabulary, the sentence rhythm, the confident assertions. Research on impressionable audiences shows that people internalize the style of input they admire. Read authoritative prose long enough, and you start to write like it, or at least feel like you could. With AI, this transfer happens without your awareness. You generate a report. The language in the report is polished, confident, academic in tone. After enough exposure, you start to feel like that language belongs to you. Like you are the kind of person who thinks in those terms, but you are not thinking in those terms. You are echoing them. Echoing them? This is the AI fluency transfer. The system's voice gets attributed to your mind. The result is a strange form of overconfidence. You can produce the outputs of understanding without the process of it. You can write a sentence that sounds like the conclusion of rigorous analysis and not have done the analysis. You can answer questions that sound expert and be operating entirely on borrowed language. And critically, you often do not know this is happening. The transfer is invisible. You experience the confidence, not the gap. Now look at the jagged frontier. The problem has no clean edge. Here is where the picture gets worse. The BCG and Harvard study on the jagged technological frontier gave 758 BCG consultants tasks with and without GPT-4. On tasks inside the frontier, tasks the model was good at, consultants using AI completed them 25% faster and scored 40% higher on quality. Inside the frontier, AI was a genuine amplifier, but the researchers also measured performance on tasks just outside the frontier, tasks that looked similar but required capabilities the model did not have. And here, the AI-assisted consultants performed 19% worse than the control group, not slightly worse than doing it alone. Why? Because inside the frontier, the AI outputs were reliable enough to build on. Outside, the outputs were confident, polished, and wrong, and the consultants who had been leaning on the tool did not catch the errors. The fluency carried them past the warning signs. This is the jagged frontier. The boundary between what AI handles well and what it handles poorly is not a line. It is ragged, uneven, and hard to see from inside the task. A business strategy that looks identical to the one the AI handled brilliantly last week might be in a domain where the model has no real competence. The output will look the same. The quality will not be. The study's authors called this the jagged frontier because the capability map is irregular. AI is superb at some things that seem hard and genuinely bad at some things that seem simple, and you, without deep knowledge of how the model works, cannot reliably tell which side of the frontier you are on. That is the core of the problem. The fluency transfer gives you confidence in the output. The illusion of explanatory depth makes you feel you could evaluate it if needed, but you cannot see the frontier. And the one time you are confidently wrong is exactly when the cost is highest. So what actually works? Use 4 specific checks. Knowing about these effects is not enough. Your brain will still drift toward the feeling of understanding every time the text reads well. You need structural practices, not good intentions. 1. The collaborator framing from Ethan Mollick. Mollick at Wharton, who has studied AI integration extensively, argues that the mental model you use matters as much as the tool itself. If you use AI as an oracle, you will trust its outputs. If you use it as a collaborator, you maintain intellectual ownership. What this looks like in practice. Before you use any AI output, establish your own position first. Know what you think before you ask. Use the AI response as a second perspective, not a first draft. When the AI agrees with you, push back and ask where it might be wrong. When it disagrees, take the disagreement seriously before dismissing it. The habit Mollick recommends is to ask, what would change my mind, before and after every AI interaction. This is not skepticism for its own sake. It is the discipline of maintaining a position instead of inheriting one. 2. The verification loop from Simon Willison. Willison, who builds AI tools for a living, has a rule. Treat every AI output as a draft that needs sources, tests, or calculations attached before it is real. For factual claims, this means requesting the sources the model used and checking them independently, not asking the model to confirm the sources, which just produces fluent agreement. Going to the original document yourself. For code, this means running the code and testing it in a separate environment from where it was generated. If it passes the tests, the output is provisional. If it fails, you caught something. For data, this means running one calculation by hand, even an approximate one, to establish whether the magnitude is plausible. If the AI tells you a metric is up 400%, check the baseline number. Does that multiplication work? These checks feel small, but they are how you keep the verification reflex alive. 3. The jagged frontier map. Take the tasks you use AI for most often, write them down. Now draw a rough line between the ones where the AI is reliably accurate and the ones where you have caught it being confidently wrong. This sounds simple, but most people have never done it. The purpose is not to produce a perfect document. It is to make the frontier visible to yourself. Once you see where the tool is reliable and where it is not, you can decide which tasks to automate and which to handle slowly. Inside the frontier, let the AI run fast. Outside the frontier, slow down and maintain full intellectual responsibility. The BCG data suggests that this boundary awareness alone meaningfully reduces the accuracy gap. 4. The explain back test. After reading any A output, close the window, wait 5 minutes. Then try to explain the core argument out loud or in writing to someone who knows nothing about the topic. No notes, no peeking. This is not a memory test. It is a depth test. If you can reconstruct the argument with its supporting logic, you probably understood it. If you can only reproduce the conclusion, the fluency fooled you. The illusion of explanatory depth is broken most reliably by the act of explanation itself. When you have to produce the structure from memory, the gaps show up immediately. Finally, separate A outputs by risk. Not every AI error costs the same. Think about the stakes in 3 tiers. Low-risk outputs, formatting, tone edits, grammar checks, review quickly and move on. Medium-risk outputs, first drafts, summaries of documents, code that has tests, read actively. Look for the places where the model generalized too far or filled in details it should not have. High-risk outputs, anything that goes to someone else with your name on it. Legal documents, financial models, strategic recommendations, expert opinions. These need the full verification loop, sources checked, logic reconstructed, explain back test passed. The most dangerous zone, tasks where you lack the expertise to verify the output even if you had unlimited time. If you cannot tell whether the AIS analysis is correct, you should not be delegating the analysis. AI fluency is not a substitute for your own understanding. The less you know about a subject, the less you can use AI as a shortcut through it. The gap between understanding something and feeling like you understand it has always existed. AI did not create it. What AI did was make the feeling much cheaper to produce and much easier to mistake for the real thing. The solution is not to trust AI less. It is to be clear about the difference between the fluency you are consuming and the knowledge you are building. Verification loops, collaborator framing, frontier awareness, the explain back test. These are not proof against AI. They are proof against the particular way AI makes ignorance look and feel exactly like expertise. I can make you faster. It can also make your ignorance more fluent. If you want more videos on behavioral science, decision-making, and how to think clearly in the AI age, subscribe to the channel.